Welcome everyone to this CELPIP Listening Part 5 video discussion analysis. Now I'm just here in the CELPIP library in the Listening Part 5 section. And before I get started, I want to remind you that Listening Part 5 focuses more on CLB 7+. What does that mean? Well, that means that if you need to get a higher score on the CELPIP, 7 or higher, then you need to do much better in this part because part 1, 2, 3, and 4, they will be easier for you, but part 5 and 6 will be more difficult. And higher levels need to do better in part 5 and 6 to get higher scores, okay? Now, if you need CLB 4, 5, or 6, then this part will be more difficult and the questions will be more difficult, so it could be more difficult to get correct answers in this part. And CLB 4, 5, and 6, you need to do better in part 1, 2, 3, and 4, okay? So yes, the video discussion will be a more complex topic, okay? And the questions will be more difficult. And so, higher levels, you need to focus on trying to get high scores in this part, okay? And then I want to remind you about the Listening Part 5 video discussion tips and strategies video, okay? Now that video will give you some more information about just some strategies that you can use for listening Part 5, some tips that we can use to answer the questions more easily, and what information we should focus on, and some of the tips and strategies that I will be using in this part. And I'm going to give you a few of those in this video too. But if you want a more in-depth analysis of tips and strategies, then I will leave a link in the description box to that video. Okay? Okay then, now let's get started with today's analysis. Work schedule. Okay. So then I'm here in the front page of today's lesson sample, and you will see that it says there are 6 sections in this sample. Okay, the video analysis, which you're watching now. Then there's some vocabulary building. Okay, vocabulary building exercises are really great to improve our vocabulary. Now, this is a word list of vocabulary that you will hear in this listening. Okay, yeah. You will hear this vocabulary and then some basic meanings, some synonyms, and some antonyms. So you should study the word list. And then there's this great exercise where you read the sentence. New employees should focus on working hard without their earnings. And then you need to think of one word that could go in there from maybe calculating, one word that can go there from the word list. Let's see, new employees should focus on working without calculating their earnings. So you have that, you put that word in there, and then afterwards you submit, you check, and look, oh, I got it correct, but I only got 7%. I need to try to get at least 70%. Very great exercise to help you build your vocabulary, and then you should do all the sentences, everyone. Very good exercise. And then we also have some comprehension building, okay? Comprehension building is a great exercise to help you improve your listening and comprehensive skills. You listen to something.
New season, new schedule, more work, less money.
So you heard that, and then you need to decide, which one has the same meaning? A, B, neither A nor B, or both A and B? Wow, that's a really great exercise to build your comprehension. Strongly recommend that. Okay, and then we have the following dialogue. This will be the dialogue from the video we hear, and also you follow along, and then you should put a word that you hear in there. Great for building your dialogue skills or following dialogue. And also you have the script there. Okay, very good exercise as well. And then we have test practice 1, which we are going to do today. And then you have a test practice 2, which is a review. So great practice, everyone, to help you improve your listening skills. And this lesson sample page will be in the link in the description box. Okay, so you will get that after the analysis. Okay, so now let's get started with today's analysis. Okay, everyone, so here we are, and it's a video discussion. We have our video, and after the video, we have our 8 questions, okay? All right, I'm just gonna start over again. Now, first, before we get started, I do want to give you some important listening tips, okay? So, the first thing about listening part 3, the first tip, which is important about listening part 5, is that in this discussion, we usually have 3 speakers. Here's one, and you can see here's another one, and you can see here's another one. Usually 3 speakers in the video, okay? And now, everyone, most of the time they tell you who the speakers are, okay? They can tell you names. Sometimes they don't. So if they don't tell you the names, I think this one they don't, we have to remember about the characters, okay? We have to remember something about this character. We have to remember something about her, and we need to remember something about him. It could be what they're wearing, what they look like, their age, okay? And that's important. That's the first thing. We have 3 characters, and we need to keep in mind who they are and also what their position could be. Maybe manager, maybe director, maybe leader, team leader. We need to try to keep that in mind, okay? The second tip that I'm going to give you is that we need to understand what is the overall main idea of the discussion they're having. What is the discussion mainly about? Now, they do tell you at the beginning, they do tell you what, or they may tell you what they are discussing, okay? Usually, the discussion is about something related to work. Can be the work schedule, can be the work managers, can be the shifts, can be the a new rule, okay, a new work policy, maybe something new about the workplace. We need to understand what is the main discussion about. Okay, that's very important. Now, the third tip that I'm going to give you about the video discussion is we need to understand what each person's opinion is about the discussion, okay? We need to understand what each person's opinion is about the discussion. So, for example, so what does she think? What is her point of view about the discussion? What about her back there? What's her main point? And then what about him over here? What does he think about what they are discussing? We need to keep in mind what each person thinks about what they are discussing. Okay? And one thing that we need to look at is, do they agree with each other? Okay? Does he agree with her? And does she agree with him, with her? Agree or disagree? We need to keep that in mind. Or what's something that they all agree with or disagree with? Okay? All right. And then the next tip that I can give you is usually, or sometimes, not always, they make some solutions or some plans to deal with the discussion. Maybe they decide to talk to the manager about it. Maybe they decide to work together to solve the problem. What is the way that they try to deal with their issue? Okay, that's also important. Okay, and now generally speaking, we also need to focus on full sentences, everyone. We need to try to keep as many full sentences as we can. Remember, we're trying to mainly think about ideas, not just words, so keep that in mind. Okay, we need to listen to full ideas. That's the best way to listen. Okay. And the last tip that I will give you is related to time. Okay. We will have 4 minutes, 4 minutes for 8 questions. And you will have the time here at the bottom. So, everyone, we need to keep that in mind. We can't spend too long on each question. And so we need to try to maybe spend about 30 seconds per question, right? 30 seconds. So 2, 4, 6, 8, exactly. 30 seconds is 4 minutes. Okay, some questions are longer than others. And if the answers are longer, then maybe we should try to do the shorter ones first. But I feel like the main thing is just to keep track of time and not spend too much time on one question, okay? Sometimes if you don't remember, you can skip the question and go to the next one. But definitely, everyone, keeping track of time is something important. All right, and then the last part is about vocabulary. Everyone, sometimes there could be a word that we're not sure about, or sometimes there's a word that we think we heard, but we're not sure if that's the answer. Let me tell you something. Lower levels, they usually choose the answers with the word they remember. But we need to ask something very important. Okay? We need to remember something. Firstly, this is not a vocabulary test or a word you heard test. No, it's not a word you heard test. This is an idea test. It's a listening test. So we need to remember ideas, not only words. So keep that in mind. And the best way to avoid choosing words is to try to make word connections. Maybe you remember the word displeased, but did you remember displeased about job duties? Or was it displeased with her schedule? Displeased with the manager? So, this is what I mean. Try to keep word connections, not just one word. That will really help you out. Okay? And then lastly, everyone, don't forget that we need to make sure we understand the questions. Who are they asking the question about? This is where a lot of students make mistakes. See, here's about the younger woman. Here's about the older woman. You see, here's about the man. Like I said, what do the man and older woman agree on? So we need to remember those things. We need to remember what each person thinks to choose the correct answer. Some answers are about the other person, not the one that we need to focus on. Okay? So make sure that you think first who is the question about? And try to remember what their ideas were. Okay, and then of course, everyone, taking notes are very useful for this part. I do remember that, or I do think that listening and repeating as much information is very important. Listening and repeating in your mind. This will give you some mental notes. Mental notes are important. But at the same time, we should or we could take some notes, and that will be beneficial for us. Okay? But if we take notes, make sure we don't take long notes because that will distract us from the listening. We need to focus on the listening, not our note taking. Okay? Very important. So then, everyone, keep those tips in mind. And now let's get started with today's analysis. So, everyone, here we are in the analysis. And the same format as the real exam. First, we watch the video, and then we have the questions. Okay? So that's the way the format is in the real exam. Okay? And also the same format as the real exam, multiple choice questions. Okay? All right. So now, also, everyone, I do want to remind you that we are going to do this analysis together. And first, I'm going to give you a chance to watch the video. And you can watch the video, take your notes. And then after that, I am going to give you a chance to read the question and answer the question. And I'm going to be following my own strategy of 30 seconds per question. So I'll give you a chance to read, then I'm going to show you the answers for each question, and you can answer. And then after that, then we are going to analyze the answers together. Okay? All right then. So then, let's get started with the video.
New season, new schedule, more work, less money. Is that the best way to start a new season? I'm glad I'm working 4 days on and I'll have 4 days off, but I'm sure not thrilled about 12-hour days.
I'm okay with the longer days, especially if I'll have 4 days off. I think it seems like the best way to get refreshed. Such a long week, but I'm not overly thrilled about the shorter lunch break. I need my full hour to relax. I think 30 minutes is just too short for lunch.
I think the reason for that is that we'll be getting 2 more 30-minute breaks to compensate. 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes in the afternoon. I think that totally makes up for the previous 15-minute breaks that we're going to lose. I always felt like those were just a waste of time.
I agree with that. I still think I'm feeling rushed during the lunch. I'm the kind of person who likes to enjoy my food and taste for it, not munch it down like a dog. Plus, it's really stressful to eat that fast. Isn't the whole point for a break to relax?
Yeah, for sure. I don't know with the whole 30-minute thing and other breaks. I don't like to eat 3 meals a day, and 4 days off for me, that's not that great. I'm single and like 4 days off gets pretty boring. But I like the idea of my weekends too. And what if we have to work on the weekends or schedule?
I'm on your team for that one. I can't imagine working Sundays. What about those who have to go to church on Sundays? Sounds pretty crazy to me. I mean, I'm not one to go to church, but I really enjoy my lazy Sundays.
As you know, I have kids. What am I going to do with the kids when I get home at 7? I mean, Pat is not going to like that.
Sounds to me like we're all on the fence about this, which is how I feel too. Let's not forget, it doesn't change our pay. Like, really, I think if you have to work on weekends, you really should get paid more.
I think that's the bottom line. we're not getting any kind of pay raise, but have to change our lives completely around. If they would offer us at least an extra $100, then maybe.
Okay, then, very interesting, everyone. So now let's get to the questions. And as I said, it's going to be 30 seconds per question. Okay, I'm just going to zoom in here so you can read better. And I will be calling the question and then I'll be timing 30 seconds. So here we go. Question number 1. Okay, question number 2. Okay, question number 3. Okay, question number 4. Okay, question number 5. Okay, question number 6. Okay, question number 7. Okay, question number 8. Okay then, everyone. So, now before we get started, I do want to say that you see question 8 here. It's only one word. Maybe you do have time, and maybe this one is easier to answer, to go back and maybe look at the longer answer questions. So I just timed it accordingly here, 30 seconds per question. But yes, I think obviously I saw another question here, maybe number 6 would be, and number 5 would be faster than number 7. I just kept it according to the time, but of course you can manage your time accordingly in the exam. Sometimes it's good to check which questions are shorter here. This question might be easier. Sometimes I do find that if this one's long and then this one's long, you should maybe try to look at the shorter questions first because it will be easier to answer. Okay, so do keep that in mind as a strategy, time management strategy. Okay, so now let's get started with analyzing our answers. Okay, very interesting conversation, a typical type of part 5 discussion about work and work schedules for sure. And work schedules, this was about the schedule changes. That was the main discussion point, main discussion idea. Okay, what are the workers mainly concerned, mainly worried about or concerned? They're concerned about how the changes will affect their daily life. Maybe, I hope you didn't miss that one. They are displeased about their new job duties. They are disappointed with shorter work weeks. They are dissatisfied with their work breaks being shortened. So I can tell you that it's not B because it was not about job duties. And also, now they did mention work weeks and they did mention breaks. But I do remember in general that they were talking about, we have here the script. Let's have a look. New season, new schedule, more work, but less money. Isn't that the best way to start the new season? I'm glad that I'll be working 4 days on, 4 days off, but I'm not so thrilled about the 12-hour days. Okay. I'm okay with longer days, especially if I'll have 4 days off. I think it seems like the best way to get refreshed after such a long week. But I'm not overly thrilled about the shorter lunch breaks. I need my full hour to relax. I think 30 minutes is just too short for lunch. I think the reason for that is we'll be getting 2 more 30-minute breaks to compensate, 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the evening, which I think totally makes up for the previous 15-minute breaks. So we're talking about breaks. Well, it's not 100% clear yet. So let's look at the other questions to find out. What does a man not have any problems with the break changes? Okay, we read that there. He doesn't think breaks should be longer than 15 minutes. He hardly takes breaks during his shifts. He thinks 30-minute breaks are a waste of time because he thought the previous breaks were too short. Well, which one did you choose? So I think 30 minutes is just too short for lunch, shorter lunch break. 2 more 30-minute breaks to compensate. So 2 30-minute breaks, 30 minutes in the morning, 30 minutes in the evening, which I think totally makes up for the previous 15 breaks. So 15-minute breaks before, so now they have 30 minutes instead of 15 minutes and a shorter lunch. And he says the 15 minutes were a waste of time. So it's not A because he doesn't think he thinks it should be longer. 15 minutes is too short. Not he hardly ever. He does take breaks. And 30 minutes is what they have now. So not C. So the answer is D. He thought the 15 or the previous breaks were too short. Okay, just zoom in here a little bit. What does the younger woman not agree with? She prefers more time during shifts. She prefers having extra time during lunch. She wants more time off work, the shorter coffee breaks. So, younger women. So, this seemed to be the second speaker, the woman in the middle. Okay. And more time during breaks is not correct. We're talking about breaks. Also, not time off work. She was talking about breaks, shorter coffee breaks, having extra time during lunch. Okay, let's check. I think 30 minutes is just too short for lunch. She prefers having extra time during lunch. That's what she wanted. Okay. Right, not shorter coffee breaks. What would the older woman prefer? So there was an older woman, the first speaker. What does she prefer? She would prefer to have longer lunch breaks. She would like to have more days between shifts. She would prefer to have less days off. And she enjoys having longer coffee breaks. She wasn't concerned about the coffee breaks. So not D. And also, she wasn't really talking about the longer lunch breaks. So B or C. So that's the first woman. For sure, I'm not sure what I do for 30 minutes in the other breaks. I don't really like to have 3 full meals per day. But anyway, the 4 days off for me also isn't that great. As you know, I'm single. So 4 days off could get pretty boring. I like the whole idea of my weekend too. And with this new schedule, we might have to work on weekends. Okay, so she's talking about working. So more days between shifts? No, not a lunch breaks. So she would prefer to have less days off, is the answer here. Okay, she says she doesn't like to have 4 days off consistently. So C. How does the younger lady feel about the extra days off work? She thinks it's exhausting. She thinks it is rejuvenating. She thinks it's relaxing. She thinks it's excessive. So exhausting, rejuvenating, relaxing, excessive. 4 days off work. Well, let's just make sure. This is talking about lunch here. Then she's talking about the days off here. I'm on your team for that one. I can't imagine working on Sundays. What about those who go to church on Sundays? Sounds pretty crazy for me. I'm not one for church, but I really enjoy my lazy Sundays. Now they're talking about days off. As you know, I have kids. What am I going to do with kids when I don't get home until 7? I know for sure that Pat isn't going to be happy about that. So maybe it was over here, woman 2. Oh, here we are, woman 2. I'm okay with longer days, especially if I'll have 4 days off. I think it seems like the best way to get refreshed after such a long week. But I'm not overly thrilled about the short. So this is the key here. Refreshed. Having extra days off work makes her feel refreshed. Not tired, not too much. Rejuvenating is refreshed. Rejuvenating, feel better. Okay. What do the man and older woman agree that? I think we just read that. I think it was something to do with weekends. Working on weekends is pushing it. Working on weekdays should be extended. Working 4-day weeks is limiting. Working 4-day weekends is stressing. Well, it's about weekends, so not B and not C. Weekdays not extended, not it's short or reduces you somehow. So the answer is A. Pushing it means it's too much. Working on weekends is too much. The woman likes to have weekends off. The man wants lazy Sundays, he said. What is mentioned about their salaries? Okay. No salary increase will be sufficient for the changes. They have to change completely with a small pay increase. They didn't get a raise but have to work excessively. They have to change their schedules for nothing. So, well, if I remember correctly, they're not getting a raise. I see here. As you know, it sounds to me like we're all on the fence about this, which is how I feel too. And let's not forget that it doesn't change any of our pay. It doesn't change any of our pay. And I think if you have to work on weekends, you should get paid more. I think that's the bottom line. We're not getting any kind of pay raise, but have to change our lives completely around. If they would have offered us at least an extra $100, then maybe. Okay, so no pay raise, so will be sufficient. No salary increase, so not will be sufficient. Small pay increase, no. Didn't get a raise, work excessively, change their schedules for nothing. D, right? Not about working excessively, but just they change their schedules, but for no reason. How do these workers feel about the changes? Well, skeptical, at odds, optimistic, disconcerted. Someone who's skeptical doesn't believe everyone. At odds, basically they don't agree. Optimistic, positive, not concerned or not interested. So the answer should be at odds. They don't like it. They are at odds with it. Disagree. Okay. And then going back to number one, again, the answer here should be not about job duties. They did mention shorter work weeks. They did mention breaks, but overall, how the changes will affect their daily life. Talked about weekends and working and their families and their lunch. So they have to change everything for nothing. Okay, very interesting. Okay. So then, looks like we got everything over here. Very good. Okay, everyone. Now, very important. We need to review. It's very important, everyone, to review. We need to review the answers and understand the question, understand why the answer is the answer, and why the other answers are not the answers. It's very important to understand. It's that B, not about duties. C, not really about shorter work weeks or not about breaks. Changing their daily life. So it's very important to try to understand that so we can build our comprehensive skills. The differences between answers, everyone. Very good. And then secondly, everyone, we should review the script. Very important. Reviewing the script and just reading it, and the way that they are expressing ideas is the way that these conversations flow naturally. So when we review the script, we need to just try to get familiar with the expression, the words they're using, especially if they'll have 4 days off. I think it seems like we need to get used to and familiarize ourselves with this kind of conversational flow. Okay, so very good. And also look at the words they use to transition between agree, disagree, how they connect with each other. Very important to understand. All right. And then after that, everyone, like I mentioned, we're going to be leaving a link in the description box to our lesson sample. And in the lesson sample, everyone, don't forget, we have vocabulary building, comprehension building, and following dialogue exercises. These exercises will really help you build your listening and language skills. And also, very important, let's not forget about test practice 2. Test practice 2 is great because you get to listen again. Okay, you do the listening again, you watch the video, and then you get to answer the questions, but different questions, everyone. Not the same questions. There's different questions with different answers. And that will be a great way for you to build your knowledge. And lastly, everyone, let's not forget about CELPIP Library. Now, CELPIP Library has over 60 examples. That's over 60 videos, everyone. 60, 70 videos. With version 2s, could be even 100 videos. Excellent practice for you to get lots of knowledge, okay, about different discussions and different topics. They're all, and also questions. Great practice, everyone. And with discount code CELPIP79, discount code CELPIP79, you can subscribe to CELPIP Library for a very low price of $10.99. That's a great deal, everyone. 3 months, that's about 90 exams, and there are about 90 exams in the library. 90 listenings, readings, writing, speaking, samples. Okay, so if you're serious about getting 7 or higher or 9 or higher, depending on your level, I strongly recommend you subscribe to CELPIP Library. Okay, so don't forget, everyone, practice makes perfect.